from the world of business, from the sports, international updates, national updates, enough to keep you engaged for the next 1 hour.
And a very good morning to you, Preeti, and to all our viewers as well. As Preeti just said, it's 1 hour of news from all corners of the world, from across India as well, from every aspect as schools begin reopening, not just in other parts of the country, but in the national capital as well. Corona cases continue to decline as our vaccine coverage continues to expand. All that and more news from Afghanistan and other parts of the world as well. But first, here are the headlines.
India once again administers more than 1 crore COVID vaccine doses in a single day. Schools to reopen in many states from today. Supreme Court to resume physical hearing of cases in a limited manner along with virtual hearing thrice a week.
India's GDP rises 20.1% in the April to June quarter of this fiscal. Chief Economic Advisor says GDP will reach pre-COVID levels by next year. Non-performing assets of banks reduce. Capital expenditure by government increases.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi to release a special commemorative coin of 125 rupees on the occasion of 125th birth anniversary of ISKCON founder Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Country witnesses weather fury in different parts with flood situation worsening in Assam and Bihar. Torrential rains cause extensive waterlogging in Maharashtra's Jalgaon. Thunderstorms in NCR and adjoining areas as well.
Indian ambassador to Qatar meets the head of Taliban's political office in Qatar. India raises its concern that Afghanistan's soil should not be used for anti-India activities. Taliban assures India's concerns will be positively addressed.
US President Joe Biden defends United States pullout as Taliban claim victory in Afghanistan. Biden says Afghanistan exit marks the end of era of major military operations to remake other countries.
India seeks to improve its overall tally of 10 medals on the 8th day of the Paralympics Games with matches in badminton and athletics today. Shooting contingent falls short of finals.
And now let's take a look at the news in detail.
Yes, let's get to an update on the vaccination drive. It is indeed a significant achievement. A record high of more than 1.25 crore vaccine doses have been administered in the last 25 hours. In fact, the new record was set in just 5 days after India witnessed the first day of administration of 1 crore vaccine doses. A total of 1 crore 25 lakh 77,983 vaccine doses have been administered till Tuesday. Now with this, rather that was done on a single day, that is Tuesday, and with this the nationwide coverage has also consequently crossed 65 crore landmark. Over 65.18 crore vaccine doses have been administered across the country till now. Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia lauded the entire country for the achievement of more than 1 crore doses for the second day within a span of 5 days. He also applauded the hard work of COVID warriors and also diligence of citizens in helping achieve this momentous feat of more than 50 crore cumulative administration of the first dose of the vaccine.
And as the downward trend in COVID cases continues for fresh cases across the country and the vaccination drive picks up pace, schools across various states are resuming physical classes with COVID safety protocols from today. Schools in the national capital Delhi are set to reopen for classes 9 to 12 from today with a bunch of special protocols meant to adhere to the COVID-19 guidelines, allowing only 50% students per classroom, mandatory thermal screening, staggered lunch breaks and alternate seating arrangement are among the guidelines announced by the Delhi Disaster Management Authority for reopening of schools and colleges. So schools continue to will begin reopening physical classes to resume in most parts of the country from today. COVID cases clearly showing, this is clear proof of Preeti that COVID cases are definitely declining.
Yes, the situation is improving, but that does not mean that we still let our guards down. Repeatedly and every day we've been reminding our viewers to be part of this fight and to keep themselves aware that they still have to follow the COVID appropriate behavior and also the protocols. As we told you that the downward trend is continuing and schools are reopening in many parts of the country from today onwards. To get us more on that, our correspondent Nandita Dagar is joining us. Nandita, let us know, what is it that you witnessed at the schools in Delhi. Students will be going to school after a very long time. Let us know more about what perceptions, what reactions are you getting? Talk more about it.
Yes, Preeti, actually schools in Delhi and in fact all over India are opening after the gap of more than 1.5 years. And in Delhi what we are seeing is that since there was very heavy rainfall in various parts of Delhi since 6 o'clock in the morning today, we are seeing very little or very thin attendance in schools today. Private schools themselves are saying that since they have to gather consent from parents from classes 9th and above, they are in the process of collecting signatures from parents, and therefore some private schools have delayed the opening of their schools. But the government schools, as you can see, this attendance is thin because of the heavy rainfall today. So we are expecting students to come in probably from tomorrow, but today the attendance is very thin, probably because only 50% of the seating capacity in the classroom is allowed as far as 9th is concerned. Apart from this, the coaching institutes and libraries also have open, universities have open. This after an order of the Delhi Disaster Management Authority, which allowed schools to open from 1st of September or Wednesday, that is today. And the Kejriwal government cited the reason that parents themselves are are urging the Delhi government to open the schools because they feel that for the past 2 years the students studying or their curriculum has suffered because of online classes. They believe that it is not as effective as physical classes between students and teachers. Preeti?
Right, Nandita, and when we talk about the new regulations in place, we believe that physical attendance is not compulsory as yet. They still have the option of continuing with online classes. What are schools saying about how they are managing it, especially government schools?
Yes, Rupma, that's a very good question. Actually, government schools will cease online classes, but the private schools are themselves will continue. Some of the private schools will continue online classes, and that is because, as you can see, it's raining pretty heavily right now. So today cannot be a good barometer to measure the attendance because today is it's early in the morning, raining heavily. So we can expect students from tomorrow. And yes, certain protocols and SOPs have been set by the government. The Delhi Disaster Management Authority has dictated that schools make sanitizers, hand rubs, face masks available, as well as seating capacity in a classroom will be only limited to 50% and not above that. So that also has been capped. So very strict protocols have to be ensured even by the schools which are opening today. And they are also opening for 9th to 12th standard. Rukma?
Right. Well, many thanks to you, Nandita, for joining us there. You keep your eyes on that story. Well, rain proving to be a dampener despite, well, such heartening news that schools are reopening from today. Clearly an outcome that the fight against coronavirus at a very good stage right now.
Yes, indeed. Also, that was an update on the Delhi schools. Very quickly, let's tell you more about how schools are reopening across different parts of the country as well. When we talk of other parts, schools across various states are also resuming physical classes with COVID safety protocols from today. Classes for standards 9 to 12, colleges and polytechnics will also reopen in Tamil Nadu. The new set of regulations has permitted that college and school students can travel free to their institutions in transport corporation buses from today across the state. Assam government is all set to resume physical classes in schools for classes 10 to 12 from today. In Arunachal Pradesh, schools will reopen in offline mode for classes 9 to 12. Schools, colleges and universities across the state had remained closed since May last, following the outbreak of the second wave of the COVID pandemic. All schools, private and public, are permitted to reopen in Meghalaya from today in urban as well as rural areas, whereas in the urban areas, online classes would continue for classes 1 to 5, school visits for classes 6 to 8 and on-campus classes for students of classes 9 to 12. Also in the rural areas, school visits would be allowed for classes 1 to 5 and on-campus open classes for students of classes 6 to 12.
The Supreme Court is scheduled to resume physical hearing of cases in a limited manner from today. After a hiatus of more than 1 year, physical hearing of cases will be held in matters requiring lengthy hearings on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. The virtual hearings will continue on Mondays and Fridays, which are miscellaneous days. The top court had been conducting hearing of the cases through video conferencing since March last year in view of the coronavirus pandemic. Wearing of mask, frequent use of hand sanitizer and maintaining physical distancing norms are mandatory for all entrants into the Supreme Court premises, including into courtrooms. The entry of parties in a matter will be permitted not earlier than 10 minutes prior to the start of the hearing.
After the COVID slump, India recorded its best ever quarterly GDP growth at 20.1% in the first quarter of this year. With business activities rebounding to pre-pandemic levels, the GDP growth was on the higher side. We get to more in this report.
India's economy has begun to show signs of recovery in the first quarter of the year. The GDP of the country stood at Rs 32,38,000 crore in the April to June quarter. Compared to last year's first quarter, the GDP is 20.1% higher. It is worth noting that a decline of 24.4% was recorded in the same quarter last year amidst the lockdown owing to the pandemic, when the GDP was at 26.95 lakh crores. Economic development gained momentum after speedy COVID vaccinations. Currently, 24.5% have been vaccinated against 4.7% last year. Recovery in agriculture has been better than pre-pandemic, while recovery level of manufacturing is at 96%.
Pre-COVID level इस साल pre-COVID level से ज़्यादा ही आएगा, और जिस तरह के आंकड़े आए हैं इससे हम अनुमान लगा सकते हैं कि जो हमने इकोनॉमिक सर्वे में जो प्रेडिक्शन दिया था और बजट में जो प्रेडिक्शन था वो इस बार आना चाहिए। इस साल में जिस तरह की पहले ही तिमाही में जो आंकड़े आए हैं उससे लग रहा है कि जो हमारा अनुमान था बजट के समय वो अनुमान एक्चुअली सही होना चाहिए। तो ग्रोथ के संदर्भ में तो एक्चुअली जो प्री पैंडेमिक्स उससे ज्यादा ग्रोथ इस साल आनी चाहिए और आगे बढ़ के भी आनी चाहिए।
There are many figures on the economic front which indicate a recovery. An increase of up to 18% in energy consumption and production in the country has been recorded. Monthly GST collection recorded beyond an average of 1 lakh crore. Freight, e-toll collection and auto sales figures have reached pre-COVID level. The growth of sales in the corporate sector is the best recorded in 5 years. NPAs of banks were seen at 2.3% level in March and net profit stood at 31,816 crores. FDI investment in 2020 crossed $80 billion and FPI investment exceeded $36.2 billion. There are also signs of relief regarding inflation. Retail inflation rate hit a 3-month low. According to the Finance Ministry, structural reforms, accelerating government investment in infrastructure, recovery in the banking sector and rapid COVID vaccinations have provided the necessary support to the economy, thus giving clear indications of the growth rate stabilizing by next year. With Ajay Kumar Mishra, Bureau Report, DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will release a special commemorative coin of 125 and will also address a gathering on the occasion of the 125th birth anniversary of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ji via video conferencing today. Swamiji founded the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON, commonly known as the Hare Krishna movement. ISKCON has translated Srimad Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literature in 89 languages, playing a stellar role in the dissemination of Vedic literature across the world. Swamiji also established over 100 temples and wrote several books teaching the path of Bhakti Yoga to the world. And joining us now is our correspondent Arun Sharma. Arun, well, it's a very significant day for the Bhakti movement, Bhaktivedanta movement in India. It's the 125th anniversary of one of the pioneers, one of the major campaigners who led a massive worldwide movement. And the Prime Minister will be sending a very important message today by his, by video conferencing. Take us through more details of the event. What else is slated to mark the day?
Good morning, Preeti and Rukma. When we talk about the religious institutions and of course the temples and various other religious institutions, they have played an important role during the COVID pandemic time. And when we talk about Bhaktivedanta Ji, Swamiji, he has played an important role in imparting the knowledge about propagating the message of Lord Krishna to the various parts of the world. I mean, not only in India, but various parts of the world. He did found this ISKCON temple and this Bhakti movement as well. And even if you look at this way, Rukma, that during the COVID pandemic time, how religious institutions, like ISKCON, they have played an important role in creating awareness. That's number one. And also ensuring that how, people can be helped with during the COVID pandemic time recently. And, as far as awareness is concerned, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also earlier met with various religious or the spiritual leaders of our country and, of course, the NGOs of our country, whereby he has asked all these religious institutions to come forward and aware people about vaccination drive as well. So when Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends this, event of the birth anniversary of Bhaktivedanta Ji Swamiji, indeed, Bhaktivedanta Ji has played an important role in propagating the message of Lord Krishna, as well as social services in our country is concerned, to ensure that how can knowledge be imparted, all across the country, not only in India, but all across the world as well. Because ISKCON temple is not only, is established in India. There are various ISKCON temples that are there in various other parts of the world, specifically USA, European countries as well. Now, and various devotees from various other worlds do come here and visit ISKCON temple. And Bhaktivedanta Ji has played an important role in creating that spiritual message to the world as well, as to how can one should be compassionate about other, and of course of the fact that how can one be providing help to other. So this the message and the ideology and the principles of Bhaktivedanta Swamiji will play an important role even and has played an important role even during the COVID pandemic time. How to help others, how to be compassionate about others, how to ensure that knowledge can be given to others, knowledge can be imparted to others. And of course, Bhaktivedanta Ji also ensured that with compassion, with helping each other, one can overcome the difficulties and challenges. So his principles and his ideologies and of course his thinking is very much relevant in today's time as well, when of course we are celebrating the birth anniversary of Swami Bhaktivedanta Ji. So indeed, when Prime Minister addresses this event of his birth anniversary. We will be talking about very much on his ideologies, about compassion, about helping others, and how his ideology is relevant in today's time as well, especially during the COVID pandemic time.
All right, Arun, thank you so much for joining us with those inputs. So that was our correspondent Arun telling us more about the contribution of Swamiji when we talk of taking forward the Vedic literature across the world. Up next, very quickly, let's get some weather updates. Yes, in the weather updates, we tell you about the flood situation in Assam. The flood situation is continuing to be grim, with over 3.6 lakh people from 21 districts of the state being affected due to incessant rainfall in Arunachal Pradesh and also neighbouring country Bhutan. The Central Water Commission reported that water level has crossed the danger mark in several districts and is rising in Barpeta, Dhubri and Kamrup districts. Also, Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma has directed that till significant improvement in the flood situation, heavy vehicles would not be allowed to ply through Kaziranga National Park, as 70% of the park has been submerged and animals are taking shelter on the National Highway 715 that runs through the national park or are crossing it in search of dry land. And Kamal Bora is joining us to get us more on that. Kamal, good morning. We tell our viewers that the situation is still grim in Assam when we talk of floods. Get us a quick update on which are the districts that are, most affected by the floods, and also how has been the prediction of the Met Department for the next few days.
Yes, Preeti, the situation has already turned green further because the number of affected districts has gone up to 22. And villages, if we talk about flood-affected villages, it has crossed the 1,200 villages so far. But as far as the number of affected people is concerned, it has also crossed 5 lakh mark. In the last 24 hours itself, it has increased by more than 1.5 lakh here in Assam, and it shows that how the situation is right now at this moment in Assam. And if we talk about the affected number of animals, it has also crossed 35 lakhs mark. So the situation is really grim. But as far as the Met Department is concerned, they have predicted that in the next few days, if we start from today, next few days, there will be moderate rain, and after 2-3 days only heavy rain might take place in isolated places of Assam and Meghalaya. So if still apprehension is still there, though we can see some very little improvement in the next 2 or 3 days, then situation can again turn green if heavy rainfall takes place as per the prediction of Met Department.
Right, Kamal, and what about the steps that the state administration is taking as far as looking after those who have been displaced or marooned, or whose homes have been flooded? What are the measures in that regard? Also, as far as the Kaziranga National Reserve is concerned, what steps there as well? Because the rains began quite some time back. There was an indication that the situation would end up as it has now.
Yes, Rukma, let me tell you here that, though lately, but very quickly the situation turned green because of incessant rain in some isolated places in mostly six states: Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Tripura and Mizoram. So, but though rain is not taking place the way it took place in the last year, but still situation is very grim at this moment. If we talk about the rescue operation or other relief measures taken by state government, yes, more than 135 relief camps have been 105 in fact relief camps have been set up across the state, and 4,000 people are taking shelter in those relief and distribution centers. And more than in the last 24 hours itself, the SDRF and other rescue team, they have evacuated more than 1,000 people from various places. Not only people, more than 1,500 animals have also been evacuated. Yes, rescue and relief operations are going on very, in full swing, and the state government is already ready in this. They used to get ready this this time actually, because flood may occur. So it's a perennial problem here in Assam. So definitely, state government is quite ready, and they are trying to rescue more and more people. They are trying to get relief to more and more people. So from that part, we haven't seen any lacking from our government's part. Definitely, it's going quite well. But everything is now depend on the rainfall. As far as the Met Department has already said that in the next 2 or 3 days, there might be a moderate rain take place in isolated places. But as I have already mentioned, the situation may turn again green if the heavy rainfall takes place after 2 or 3 days, as already predicted by Met Department. Rukma.
All right. Thank you so much, Kamal, for joining us with those updates. That was our correspondent Kamal telling us more about the flood situation in Assam.
And now moving on to other news stories, even as the flood situation is grim in Assam, it appears that in Bihar too, it is similar. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar on Tuesday conducted an aerial survey of flood-affected areas of the state to assess the damage caused by the prevailing floods. The Chief Minister made an aerial survey of Darbhanga and Madhubani districts to take stock of the situation arising out of heavy water logging. He also visited flood-affected Kusheshwarsht in an area in Darbhanga district on a boat. Nitish Kumar directed the civil administration and health officials to take special care of pregnant women, the elderly and children affected by the floods.
Minister of State for Defence Ajay Bhatt will visit flood-affected areas in Uttarakhand today. He will be reaching Dharchula along with DG, BR and MP Ajay Tamta to take stock of the flood situation. Frequent landslides have blocked several highways, rivers in spate after heavy rains were witnessed in Uttarakhand. Also, heavy monsoon rains triggered landslides that have blocked several highways. MS Defence reviewed the flood situation in Uttarakhand in a meeting with Director General Border Roads in New Delhi on Tuesday, and he also took stock of damage of Pithoragarh-Tawaghat road between kilometers 98 to 102. He also inquired about the damage to Pithoragarh-Tawaghat road. Lieutenant General Chaudhary apprised Shri Ajay Bhatt that along with BRO, National Disaster Relief Force and the entire team of the local administration are engaged in relief and rescue operation to provide succor to the affected.
And several parts of Delhi and adjoining cities such as Noida, Greater Noida, Ghaziabad and Gurugram also received moderate to heavy rains this morning. As per the IMD, the national capital and its neighbouring areas are likely to witness thunderstorms with moderate to heavy intensity rains in the next few hours. It has also predicted continuous rainfall in Delhi till Friday. Delhi has been experiencing heavy rainfall over the course of this week due to waterlogging. Traffic movement at a few stretches is restricted and people have been advised to avoid these routes.
Mumbai, its neighbouring Thane, Palghar and other districts in Konkan region witnessed heavy downpour yesterday. The weather department has predicted heavy to very heavy rainfall for Maharashtra for today. The rainfall is likely to decrease gradually from tomorrow and the city might receive only light drizzles during the weekend. Currently, weather is cloudy in Mumbai.
And India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest movements in the modern world that the modern world has ever witnessed. DD India brings you a glimpse of this struggle every day. Today we talk about the legendary Tamil fighter, Puli Thevar.
Legendary Tamil fighter Puli Devan, who was born on this day in 1715. He was one of the first Indians to resist the British imperialism in the country. He was one of the 77 polygars or the local chieftains in the Tamil region during the time with him wielding the power in the locality of Nel Kattum Sevval of the present-day Tirunelveli district of Tamil Nadu.
The system of governance through the Palayams had evolved after the breakup of the once powerful Vijayanagara Empire of South India in the late 16th century. These Nayaks and Polygars did not recognize the authority of the Mughal vassal, Nawab of Arcot, and ruled their domains autonomously. when the East India Company gained the taxation rights from the Nawab, the Polygars refused to accept British authority, which led to, in British terminology, Polygar Rebellion.
The prolonged war with many fierce battles went on for nearly half a century, wherein the Tamil forces matched the superior weaponry and manpower of the enemy by their courage. The first of a galaxy of brave polygars who waged war against the British over that period was Pulidevan. Puli first met British forces in 1755 when British Colonel Alexander Heron marched onto western Tamil region. British artillery proved ineffective against the thick stone walls of Puli's fort at Nelkattumseval.
Strategically, Pulidevan also planted spies in the English camp, who gave him constant updates and helped him foil all attacks by the British. Pulidevan's reputation skyrocketed for his heroic defense of his fort, and all the western polygars rallied under his leadership and formed a confederacy to wage war against the foreign rule. Puli used his exceptional diplomatic skills to forge an allegiance with the Maharaja of the neighbouring kingdom of Travancore. In the next 6 years, Puli effectively fought off the British forces, stemming the tide of imposition of colonialism in the region.
However, through the shrewd diplomacy of new Renta appointed by the British, the alliance between Polygars and Travancore was broken. The British Renta Yusuf Khan hailed from the same region and was born Marutha Nayagam Pillai and had converted to escape discrimination. While Khan was able to successfully contain the defiant Polygars, he himself revolted against the British and later led a historic struggle against them. However, as Yusuf consolidated his power in the region, many Polygars also joined him and Pulidevan lost his holdings one after another.
Later, Yusuf Khan successfully won over the Maharaja of Travancore, and Pulidevan found himself pitted against the overwhelming strong, combined armies of Yusuf and Travancore. His gallant resistance came to an end in his own home turf, Nelkattumseval. In spite of the failure of his epic struggle, Pulidevan remains a much revered hero of the Tamil Nadu, especially among the people of Tirunelveli and adjoining regions.
The Pulidevan Palace in Tirunelveli, which was his headquarters, is a national monument today. A statue of his adorns Nelkattumseval, where he was born and fought his last battle. The people of Tirunelveli commemorate his birth anniversary every year with absolute devotion.
Alright, so that was the report we get to you every day, wherein we talk and we tell you more about India's freedom struggle and important people who were part of it. Up next, we're waiting for a short break. Stay with us. We'll be back in a short while.
With the world's largest COVID vaccination drive, India is leading the way. As the vaccine reaches every corner of the nation, do not forget the mantra, Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi. Let's continue our fight against COVID-19. Vaccination along with social distancing, sanitization and masks.
Mask up, India!
Put your mask on and cover your nose and be safe.
Mask up, India.
Welcome back after the break. Here watching Breakfast Show, and now we get to our next segment across the globe, wherein we get to all the international updates.
And across the world, we begin with news from Afghanistan. The Indian ambassador to Qatar, Deepak Mittal, met the head of the Taliban's political office in Qatar. In a meeting held on the request of the Taliban side, which focused on safety, security and early return of Indian nationals stranded there, India raised concerns that Afghanistan's soil should not be used for anti-India activities. And the Taliban has assured that India's concerns will be positively addressed. Here's more.
The government of India is keeping a close watch on the fast evolving situation in Afghanistan. India is concerned about the security situation in Afghanistan in the wake of twin bomb blasts last week, drone attacks and reports of sporadic violence from it. As per sources in the Ministry for External Affairs, the highest echelons of the Indian government, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, are monitoring the situation in Afghanistan.
The evolving situation in Afghanistan, the Prime Minister has directed that a high-level group comprising of the External Affairs Minister, the National Security Advisor and other senior officials of the Government of India will focus on immediate priorities of India and Afghanistan. In fact, this group has been meeting regularly over the past few days. It seized of issues pertaining to the safe return of stranded Indians who are still in Afghanistan and also of the travel of those Afghan nationals, especially belonging to the minorities of Afghanistan who might wish to come to India. The group is ensuring that the territory of Afghanistan is not used in any manner for terrorism directed against India. The group has also been monitoring the ground situation in Afghanistan and the international response to it, including the UNSC resolution passed by the Security Council, the 2593 resolution, which basically states that demands that Afghan territory is not used to threaten or to attack any country or to shelter or train terrorists or plan and finance terrorist acts. In fact, this 2593 resolution that the UNSC passed under the presidency of India, as India is the current president of the Security Council, specifically mentions individuals and entities designated pursuant to the UNSC resolution 1267, which includes organizations like the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed.
पूरी दुनिया के लिए एक चुनौती है और अफगानिस्तान में जिस तरह प्रतिपल स्थितियां बदल रही हैं, भारत में एक सक्षम सरकार है और योग्य नेतृत्व हमारे पास है। हम प्रत्येक स्थिति पर नज़र रखे हैं और हिंदुस्तान के किसी भी व्यक्ति को किसी तरह का नुकसान न हो, इसके लिए सरकार पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध है।
With the top brass in India keenly watching the developments in Afghanistan, India established diplomatic contact with the Taliban in Qatar on Tuesday. Indian ambassador to Qatar, Deepak Mittal, met Sher Mohammad Abbas Stanekzai, the head of Taliban's political office in Doha, at the Indian embassy in Doha on the request of the Taliban side. They discussed safety, security and early return of the Indian nationals stranded in Afghanistan, besides the travel of Afghan nationals, especially minorities who wish to visit India. Ambassador Mittal raised India's concern that Afghanistan's soil should not be used for anti-Indian activities and terrorism in any manner. The Taliban representative assured the ambassador that these issues would be positively addressed. This comes close on the heels of a video statement by Stanekzai on Sunday that India is very important for the subcontinent and the Taliban wants to continue Afghanistan's cultural, economic, political and trade ties with India like in the past, in what was the first categorical statement directed at India by a senior leader of the Taliban since they captured power in Kabul on 15th of August. Back home, the government of India briefed floor leaders of various political parties in India on the Afghanistan crisis last week. On Prime Minister's direction, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar gave the briefing. After Taliban's takeover of Kabul, India evacuated its diplomatic staff, majority of its national and some Afghan nationals, including minorities, directly or via third countries with the help of Indian Air Force aircraft and Air India planes. The government of India had swung into action as soon as the situation in Afghanistan deteriorated and asserted that safe passage for Indian nationals from Afghanistan is a top priority. 2 days after Taliban's takeover, Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security where he was briefed about the situation in Afghanistan. India evacuated Afghan minorities including Sikhs and Hindus and also brought 3 copies of Sri Guru Granth Sahib to India from a Kabul Gurudwara. The sacred scripture was received by Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri at Delhi airport. He carried the Sri Guru Granth Sahib on his head, showing utmost respect to it. Prime Minister Narendra Modi acknowledged that even though there are challenges in Afghanistan, the sacred scripture was safely brought to India. India played a key role in reconstruction of war-ravaged Afghanistan and is mindful of the situation in the region, as it is likely to have security and other implications. With Amritpal Singh, Bureau Report, DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke on phone with President of the European Council, His Excellency Charles Michel, on Tuesday. The leaders discussed the recent developments in Afghanistan and also the implications for the region and the world. They unequivocally condemned the horrific terror attack at Kabul International Airport that resulted in many casualties. They also emphasized on the importance of a stable and secure Afghanistan and discussed the potential role India and the European Union could play in this context. The two leaders agreed to remain in touch on bilateral and global issues, in particular the situation in Afghanistan. Later, Prime Minister in a tweet said, and I quote him, spoke with Charles Michel, President of the European Council, about the evolving situation in Afghanistan, also reiterated our commitment to further strengthening of India-European Union relations.
And less than 24 hours after the last United States military flight left Kabul, President Joe Biden mounted a defiant defense of the withdrawal, saying it was the right decision to end the US's 20-year military presence there. Speaking in a firm tone from the White House, Biden said keeping US troops in control of the airport in the Afghan capital beyond an August 31st withdrawal deadline would have exposed them to heightened security risks.
US President Joe Biden vigorously defended the withdrawal of US forces from Afghanistan, saying his administration had evacuated the vast majority of Americans who wanted to leave the country and would refrain from future military action that lacked clear, achievable goals. In an address to the nation, a day after the end of a 20-year-old US presence in Afghanistan, Biden emphatically argued that it was the right decision and called the evacuations of Americans an extraordinary success. He asserted that August 31st was not an arbitrary deadline, but was designated to save American lives.
I take responsibility for the decision. Now some say we should have started mass evacuations sooner. And couldn't this have been done in a more orderly manner? I respectfully disagree. Imagine if we'd begun evacuations in June or July, bringing in thousands of American troops and evacuating more than 120,000 people in the middle of a civil war. There still would have been a rush to the airport, a breakdown in confidence and control of the government, and it still would have been a very difficult and dangerous mission. The bottom line is there is no evacuation from the end of a war that you can run without the kinds of complexities, challenges, and threats we faced. None.
Biden said the only other option would have been to step up the fight. He asserted that he was neither in favor of extending this forever war nor extending a forever exit.
By the time I came to office, the Taliban was in its strongest military position since 2001. Controlling or contesting nearly half of the country, so we were left with a simple decision. Either follow through on the commitment made by the last administration and leave Afghanistan, or say we weren't leaving and commit another tens of thousands more troops going back to war. That was the choice, the real choice, between leaving or escalating. I was not going to extend this forever war, and I was not extending a forever exit.
Biden also criticized the ousted Afghan government's inability to fight back against swift Taliban advances, which forced the United States and its NATO allies into a hasty and humiliating exit.
I simply do not believe that the safety and security of America is enhanced by continuing to deploy thousands of American troops and spending billions of dollars a year in Afghanistan. But I also know that the threat from terrorism continues in its pernicious and evil nature. But it's changed, expanded to other countries. Our strategy has to change too.
Finally, the president assured that his administration would continue to help Americans exit the country, saying 100 to 200 of them remained after more than 5,500 Americans had gotten out before the withdrawal ended. Bureau Report, DD India.
Meanwhile, hours after the withdrawal of the last American troops from Afghanistan, Taliban leaders on Tuesday declared victory over the US from the tarmac of Kabul airport. However, before leaving, the US troops destroyed more than 70 aircrafts and dozens of armored vehicles and disabled air defenses at the Kabul airport that had thwarted an attempted Islamic State rocket attack on the eve of their departure. Taliban soldiers on Tuesday inspected damaged aircraft and equipment at Kabul airport. The US military helicopters with smashed windows and deflated tires sat at the airport hangars and damaged equipment was strewn across the tarmac. The Islamic militants now control more territory than when they last ruled before they were driven out in America's longest war, which took the lives of nearly 2,500 US troops and an estimated 240,000 Afghans.
And vehicles carrying Taliban reinforcements on Tuesday were seen driving through Panjshir Valley after clashes with militia fighters a day earlier, in which at least 7 people were killed. Since the fall of Kabul on the 15th of August, the Panjshir has been the only province to hold out against the Taliban. Fahim Dashti, a spokesman for the National Resistance Forces, said the fighting occurred on the western entrance to the valley where the Taliban attacked NRF positions. Masood, son of the former anti-Soviet Mujahideen commander Ahmed Shah Masood, has established himself in the Panjshir Valley. He has called for a negotiated settlement with the Taliban but has said his forces will resist if their province in the narrow and mountainous valley is attacked. A significant force of Taliban fighters has been moved to the area, but the two sides have so far been engaged in negotiations and have avoided fighting. And joining us now is our correspondent Ravi Dhiman to tell us more about the situation as it stands now. Ravi, first of all, it's over to you for a quick overview, the key points that are to be noted in the situation in Afghanistan as it stands now.
Well, President Joe Biden, as you told our viewers, Rukma, has made it clear that it was the right decision for the US to leave Afghanistan, exit Afghanistan war after 20 years. He justified his decision and somehow he pinned the blame on his predecessor, former US President Donald Trump, for negotiating a deal with the Taliban and agreeing to exit Afghanistan by May 1st. He said that he inherited this deal, and he seems to be suggesting that he had no option but to follow the deal, or the Taliban onslaught was coming. Perhaps arguing that Taliban onslaught would have ended with more U.S. soldiers dead in the war against Taliban, which really many 4 U.S. presidents, which spanned the tenure of 4 U.S. presidents, and he also brought in a personal angle to it, recalling his son Bew, and added that maybe it is because of that he wanted to end the war. He also tried to strike an emotional chord with the veterans, the U.S. war veterans and their families, arguing the trauma that they go through every time America is at war with some nation, and the trials and tribulations of the life of a family of a soldier who is out there fighting a war in a distant land. All this he combined to somehow make it clear to the U.S. people, to the U.S. citizens, that his decision was right. Although still in U.S. many claim and many question the timing of the decision and the manner in which the U.S. unfolded its operations from Afghanistan, which resulted in chaos and later on carnage on the tarmac. And as far as Taliban is concerned, they now have control of almost 99% of the Afghanistan's territory. They are much stronger than they were in 2001 when the U.S. intervened in Afghanistan. The real threat of the Northern Alliance has been now confined to a very small country, Delhi, and the entire Afghanistan is in their hands. And thanks to the retreating former Afghanistan government troops, Taliban has a cache of sophisticated arms and equipments that were not with them, and the international experts have been citing
all
these,
right.
yeah.
Ravi, very quickly also, what do you make of the meeting which Indian ambassador to Qatar, Deepak Mittal, had with the political head of Taliban? This meeting comes at the request of Taliban. Added to that, India sternly put it in clear words that Afghanistan soil should not be used for terrorist activities against India, which was replied with a positive stance by Taliban that it will be adhered to. What do you make of this meeting, and can we expect to trust Taliban?
There are two aspects, Preeti. First is that India had to open up a diplomatic channel openly after US exited Taliban, and Taliban is now in command of Afghanistan. Whether the world acknowledges their legitimacy or not, but the fact is that Taliban is in control of Afghanistan. And India's priority right now is to get back its citizens from Afghanistan, and to also ensure the minorities who want to leave Afghanistan, especially the Hindus and the Sikhs, that they be allowed to travel to India or wherever they want to go. This is priority number one for India, and for that, when you have no one else but Taliban ruling over Afghanistan, you have to initiate diplomatic talks. You have to open up a diplomatic channel, and that's what India did through their channel, which was available, because India does not have a mission in Kabul right now. The entire officials have come back. So the political mission of Afghanistan is in Doha, and our ambassador to Qatar opened up a diplomatic channel with them. Held talks with their political representative, who also has an Indian connection. He was an IMA cadet in 1982, Sher Mohammad Abbas Tanexar. So this is a positive development as far as the efforts to bring back Indians home from Kabul is concerned.
Right.
Also, an effort to ensure that Taliban will honor their commitment and not allow Afghanistan to be used as a terror breeding ground.
All right, Ravi, thank you so much for joining us with those inputs. That was our correspondent Ravi Dhiman telling us more about the current situation in Afghanistan.
And let's move on now very quickly. A look at updates on COVID-19 from across the world, with over 21 crore 85 lakh people having been infected by the virus so far, while recoveries stand at above 19 crore 53 lakh. More than 45 lakh 33,000 people have lost their lives to the virus worldwide. The US continues to remain the worst hit of all the countries, with over 4 crore, and the number of deaths stand at above 6 lakh 57,000.
And now we get to Web News Review. And for this, Abhishek is joining us. Good morning, Abhishek. Let us know what all have you picked up for us from social media platforms.
Good morning, Priti, and good morning, Gupta. The first news that I'm bringing to you is from India Express, which has made headline of India's first official engagement or contact with Taliban leadership. India-Taliban makes first official contact after last US troops leave Afghanistan. This is the news. India's ambassador in Doha, Deepak Mittal, has met Taliban political office head and this is how and India has expressed its concerns over the issues in Afghanistan, and it was assured that the positive look will be taken on that. The next news is from The Hindu, on coronavirus. India has achieved surely a milestone. India reaches new milestone with over 100.09 crore COVID-19 jabs in a day. This is the fresh record. Within 4 years, India has achieved again 1 crore plus COVID vaccination, and this is a truly record. And going forward, we can only see that this number will keep growing. The Times of India is our next paper, which has made the headline of 9 Supreme Court judges taking oath on day of many records. Among this batch of 9 judges, one of the judges is also going to be the first women CGI of India few years from now, and this will also be quite a milestone in our judiciary system. Next newspaper is the Times of the Hindustan Times, which has made news of Delhi rains prevail and issues heavy rainfall alert across NCR. We have seen in the last 24 hours at least there has been heavy showers in parts of Delhi and adjacent areas, and this is going to continue at least for today. So Delhi people will have to brace up for some traffic snarls up, and Other issues related with rain, but on the monsoon front, this is quite a good news for farming community. This was all from Web News Review. Back to you, Rukma and Priti, for more news updates.
Well, many thanks, Abhishek, for joining us there with that Web News Review. It's time now for some sports news in our next segment, Sports Track.
All right, let's get you news from Tokyo Paralympics. India seeks to better its tally of 10 medals on the 8th day of the Paralympics Games with matches in badminton and athletics today. In swimming, Suyash Yadav will compete in the men's 100 meters breaststroke SP7 final, and India will begin its badminton campaign with a mixed doubles pair of Pramod Bhagat and Palak Kohli set to face second-seeded French pair of Faustine Noël and Lucas Mazur. Also later in the day, both Indian para-shuttlers will play their singles group matches. In athletics, Amit Kumar Saroha, one of India's most experienced Paralympians, will compete along with compatriot Dharamveer in the men's club throw F51 final. Amit had finished 4th in Rio 2016 and also is a strong medal contender this time as well.
Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of Breakfast News. As we go, as always, we'd like to remind you to continue to maintain COVID appropriate behavior despite the fact that we are slowly limping back to normalcy. The fight against COVID is not over yet. So always wear a mask, maintain social distancing and go in for vaccination as soon as possible.
All right, also we leave you with some good visuals every day, and today we're leaving you with visuals which tell us that climate is taking catastrophic turns each day and sustainability and recycling are in fact the way forward. So take a look at these visuals which we get you from Peru's Lima, where unique looking cars are made from recycled materials and they were seen on the roads. Take a look at these beautiful visuals. Bye-bye.